What's up, YouTube? It's me, Gabe, and today I'm going to be doing a brand new video segment that I call Danganronpa X Yu-Gi-Oh! Character Deck Profiles. So, for this one, I'm starting off with my personal favorite character, Shuichi Saihara, the Ultimate Detective. So I'm sure as you guys could see, I'm having Shuichi run a Phantom Knights deck. The reason why I chose Phantom Knights is mostly because his deck, not his deck, but Shuichi is actually very similar to Yuto, and they both honed their skills, with Shuichi being the ultimate detective and Yuto being a member of the Resistance, and both were fighting for someone. For Shuichi, it was Kaede, and for Yuto, it was Lulu, or Ruri if you watch the sub. But anyways, let's get on with the deck profile and let's see what we got. So first off, I'm having Shuichi run 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Torn Scales. This is his main go-to monster. So if he ever... So this card has the ability where you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard, or no, not send, I mean discard 1 card from your hand to send a Phantom Knights card from your deck to the graveyard. Also, if a Phantom Knights card is ever banished while this card is in your graveyard, you can resummon it from your graveyard, but it's banished when it leaves the field. Now, this is how Shuichi would mostly get the cards in his graveyard. And plus, I was pretty lucky to get 3 copies of these, because seriously, you would not believe how many tints I had to go through to get these. But moving on from that, next up, I'm having Shuichi run 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Stained Graves. This monster has the effect where if a Phantom Knights monster is special summoned, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can increase the level of this card by 1. So basically, when Shuichi summons a Phantom Knight monster, he can be able to summon out this monster and either as fodder for Break Sword or to Exceed Summon. Also, this monster has the ability where it can banish itself from the graveyard to special summon a Phantom Knight monster from your hand, and if you then you can accept itself, then you can increase its level by 1. So yeah, pretty good. So I'm also running 3 copies of this card, since, well, if you can banish it from the graveyard, and you got a good opening hand, you could be able to go off into a Phantom Knights and Xyz monster real easily. Now, moving on. Next up, I'm having Shuichi run 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak. This monster has the effect where if this card is in attack position, you can target 1 dark monster on the field, change this card to defense position, and if you do, it gains 800 attack points until the end of your opponent's turn. It also has the effect where you can banish it from the graveyard in order to search out for any Phantom Knights card from your graveyard, and you can only use each effect of the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak once per turn. So, if this card is also Shuichi's main searcher for, say, Torn Scales or Stained Greaves. Oh, sorry if that was a little too close. Let me just readjust. And so yeah. Also, this monster would also be the attack booster of the guild, as I kind of call it. And this is also how. And so yeah, that is how Shuichi would get a lot of his cards and beef up his monsters. Now, moving on. And also, I'm having Shuichi run 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. This deck monster has the effect where if you control a Phantom Knights monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you ban, you can and it also has the effect where it can banish itself from the graveyard in order to add a Phantom Knight spell or trap from the deck to the hand. So, if Shuichi ever has a Phantom Knight on his field, he can bring this out, then either use it to Xyz summon, or if he has Break Sword out already, he can use it as destruction fodder for Break Sword's effect, then banish itself from the graveyard to add a spell or trap, Phantom Knight spell or trap from his deck to the hand. So yeah, that's it for that. And now I'm also having Shuichi run 2 copies of the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves and 2 copies of Raider's Wing. So if we go over here, the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves has the effect where it can banish, where a dark attributed Xyz monster is Xyz summoned using this card. It gains the effect where it gains 1000 attack points, and it also has the other effect where it can banish itself from the graveyard to send a Phantom Knights card from the deck to the graveyard. So this is how Shuichi will mostly set up his graveyard in order to get his resources. And moving on from here, Raider's Wing has the effect where it is treated as a Phantom Knights or a Raid Raptor card. If this card, it also has, its effect is where if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can detach an Xyz material from a dark Xyz monster, then special summon this card but banish it when it leaves. No, an Xyz monster it also has the effect where if an Xyz monster whose original attribute is dark, and this card is and has this card as material, gains the effect where your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. So this is so while Ragged Gloves can help increase his monster's attack, Raider's Wing acts as a protector for his Xyz monsters like Dark Rebellion or Raider's Knight, which I'm going to cover in a bit. So yeah, those are the 2-offs that I play for this deck. And also, I'm having Shuichi run 3 copies of Ash Blossom. And no, not for FBI purposes, but this is mostly so that Shuichi can shut down his opponent from adding any cards from his deck, or special summoning from the deck, or sending cards from the deck to the graveyard. Shuichi can discard this card to negate the activation. And that's pretty much it. Now moving on from monsters to spell cards, and trust me, I've got a lot of them. So I'm having Shuichi run 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. This card has the effect where if your opponent activated a monster effect during your main phase, you can either draw 2 cards, take control of 1 monster your opponent controls, or look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it to shuffle back into the deck. You can only use each effect of activate 1 Triple Tactics Talent per turn. Now this I would actually imagine Shuichi using either the first or the third effect of this card, as he would respect his opponent enough where you wouldn't want to steal a monster from them. And don't judge me, I just think that's how Shuichi would do things if he was a duelist. Now anyways, moving on. I'm also having him run 1 copy of Allure of Darkness so that he can add draw 2 cards and banish a dark monster. Reinforcement of the army to add his torn scales into his deck or any other of his warriors. I'm also having him run Foolish Burial to set up his grave. And also having him run Rank Up Magic Astral Force, pretty much as a backup in case, kind of like as a get me out of a tough situation card. And plus, to help him get out with more monsters, I'm also having him run one copy of Double Summon, which allows him to give him an additional normal summon of this turn. Oh, and rank up magic Astral Force basically lets Shuichi rank up an Xyz monster on his field into another Xyz monster that's 2 ranks higher, as long as the monster has the same type and attribute as the monster he controls. And lastly, for the regular spells, I'm having him run one copy of Monster Reborn. Pretty much I'm having a lot of characters run Monster Reborn, and so this is a staple card for him. And moving on to the quick plays, I'm having Shuichi run one copy of the Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force. This card, let me zoom in. This card has the effect where during the main phase, you can banish one or more dark monsters from your graveyard, then target one dark Xyz monster you control, special summon from your and then you can rank it up into a Phantom Knight, Raid Raptor, or Xyz Dragon Xyz monster whose rank equals to that of the targeted monster you control plus the number of monsters banished by using it as material. Also, however, after Shuichi activates this card, he cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Xyz monsters. And so basically, this is how Shuichi would be able to quickly rank up his Dark Rebellion, his monsters. And also I'm having him run one copy of the Phantom Knights Rank Up Magic Launch. This card has the effect where it can target a Dark Xyz monster on his field and use this card and the Xyz monster that has, as long as it had no overlay units, to rank up into an Dark Xyz monster that's 1 rank higher. So basically, Shuichi would use this to rank up his Dark Rebellion into Dark Requiem. And also I'm having him run one copy of Crossed Out Designator. In case his opponent activates a Monster Reborn or an Ash Blossom, Shuichi can banish a card from his deck to negate the active with the same name and negate the active and negate to negate the effects of the declared card with the same name until the end of this turn. And to be honest, that was pretty cool that I got that. But anyways, I'm also having Shuichi run 2 copies of the not the Phantom Knights. I meant to say Burial from a Different Dimension. This allows Shuichi to return 3 banished monsters back to the graveyard. And I'm having him run 2 copies because, well, basically saying it enables him to set up his graveyard for a different effect. And return cards from his graveyard or in his banished zone back to his graveyard to set up some more plays. Then I'm also having him run 1 copy of Called by the Grave. This card allows Shuichi to banish 1 monster from your opponent's graveyard and negate until the end of the turn. Its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. Now, I'm sure as everyone read the ban list, I have for Shuichi running this card at 1 because I wanted to stay close within the ban limits. And lastly, to finish off the spells, I have 1 copy of Cosmic Cyclone. This allows Shuichi to pay 1,000 life points to target a spell or trap on the field and banish it. So it could be able to help out with Shuichi getting rid of his opponent's resources or back row in case of his opponent plays a pesky spell. And that just about wraps it up for the spells. Now moving on to the traps. Now, truth be told, guys, I kind of based Shuichi's deck off of like competitive play, so I apologize if not all of the Phantom Knights monsters are in this deck, so please forgive me. But anyways, I'm having Shuichi run 3 copies of the Phantom Knight's Fogblade. This trap allows Shuichi to target one effect monster on the field, negate the face-up monster's effects, and prevent it from attacking or being targeted for an attack. Also, it has the other effect where it can banish itself from the graveyard to resummon a Phantom Knight monster from his graveyard. So this is how Shuichi would be able to shut down his opponent's powerful monsters and prevent them from attacking. However, it would also prevent him from attacking them, so I guess it would pretty much be a space taker. But this is also how Shuichi would be able to get his monsters out from the graveyard if he doesn't have Monster Reborn. So, yeah. Moving on from that, I'm also having him run 1 copy of the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine. This trap allows Shuichi to special summon it to the field in defense mode as a normal monster with a level of 4, an attack of 0, a defense power of 3, and it being a Dark Warrior type monster. Also, it is not treated as a trap card while it's out. It also has another effect where it can activate this card to turn it was set if he has no traps in his grave. So Shuichi banishes Silent Boots, and it still has no trap cards. He can add this card from his deck to his hand, and then instant set it, and then instantly summon it. So, yeah. And next up, I have Shuichi running 2 copies of Infinite Impervience. This allows Shuichi to target a face-up monster his opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. Then, if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution, for the rest of this turn, all other spell and traps in the card's column are negated. But also, it has another effect where if you have no cards in your hand, you can activate this card. No cards on your field, you can activate this card from your hand. So this is another one card that Shuichi would use to shut down his opponent's powerful monsters or their deck. And basically, it would lock them out of their effects, which allows Shuichi to perform a counterplay. Now, moving on from that, I have Shuichi running 2 copies of Solemn Strike to pay 1,500 life points to activate to negate the special summon or activation of a monster effect and destroy the card. Now, this one would act as a staple for Shuichi, not a lot of people would run it. And lastly, I have Shuichi running 1 copy of Escape from the Dark Dimension. This trap allows Shuichi to target to special summon one banished monster, the banished dark monster from his one dark monster that is banished. Please forgive me, you guys. And special summon it. So this is how Shuichi would also be able to get his monsters back from his banished zone. Now, I believe that wraps up for the main deck. Time to move on to the extra deck. So, for the first one, I'm having Shuichi run 1 copy of Dark Anthelian Dragon. This is basically a card that Shuichi gets later on during this roleplay, during this fan fiction that I'm actually working on. Sadly, I'm still on the first chapter. And I kind of thought of originally having him run a Phantom Knight's Pendulum deck and having this one be his boss monster, but I kind of thought of it being more like a Pendulum evolution of Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. So, yeah. And moving on from that, I also have Shuichi run 1 copy of Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon. This monster has the effect where it cannot be destroyed. This Xyz summoned card cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can detach 1 material from this card. This card gains the original attack equal to the total original attack of all other monsters on the field. Then, if this card has a Dark Xyz monster as material, negate the effects of all other face-up monsters on the field. After this effect resolves, you cannot. It can prevent your other monsters from attacking. But this is basically what Shuichi's ultimate boss monster would be, if he were to later on during the fanfiction. I was originally planning to have him run 2 copies of this card, but I think 1 is just too dangerous. 1 is dangerous enough already. So yeah. Moving on from that, we have his first boss of his deck, Dark Requiem Xyz Dragon. This monster has the effect where it requires 3 level 5 monsters to be summoned, and if this card has Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon as material, once per turn it gains the effects. The effects where it can detach 1 material from the card, then target 1 face-up monster his opponent controls, change that monster's attack to 0, and if he does, this card gains attack equal to that monster's original attack. It also has another effect where when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, he can detach an overlay unit from this card, negate the activation, and if he does, destroy that card. Then he can special summon 1 Xyz monster from his graveyard. So this is basically what Shuichi would evolve his Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon into later on during the fanfiction. It would also serve as his boss monster until he, gets it to Arc Rebellion or Dark Anthillion Dragon. Oh, I guess I forgot to tell you guys about Dark Anthillion Dragon's effects. Basically saying this dragon, if you can Pendulum Summon level 7, you can Pendulum Summon this face-up card from your extra deck. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and at the end of this turn, its attack becomes half its current attack, and if it does, this card gains attack equal to that lost amount. If this card is ever destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place this card in your Pendulum Zone. Now, I know that Shuichi would normally run Xyz, but I kind of thought, but again, I thought of having him run Pendulums, but it just didn't sit well. So I thought of having him switch to Xyz monsters. And now moving on to Shuichi's Ace monster, I thought of having him run 1 copy of Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. This monster has the effect where you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half its current attack, and if it does, this card gains attack equal to that lost amount. So this monster would serve as Shuichi's Ace monster throughout the entire fanfiction, and it was actually a gift to him from his headcanon older brother, Shu. I'm still thinking of a name though, but tell me what you guys think. And also, later on during the show, in the series, I'm actually going to be explaining a little bit about why I gave Shuichi Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. But I just feel like that this card would suit Shuichi very well, and it would do him very proud in a lot of battles. Now, moving on, I also thought of having Shuichi run 2 copies of Raider's Knight. This monster has the effect where it requires 2 level 4 dark monsters to be Xyz summoned. This card is always treated as a Phantom Knights and Raid Raptors monster card. You can detach 1 material from this card, special summon from your extra deck, or 1 the Phantom Knights, Raid Raptor, or Xyz Dragon monster that is 1 rank higher or lower than this card by using this face-up card as you control as material, but destroy it during your end phase. So this card would basically act as like a quick rank up monster for Shuichi's deck if he were to go into Arc Anthillion Dragon, into Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon I meant. And also, I kind of originally planned on having Shuichi's headcanon brother play a Raid Raptors deck, which explains the Phantom Knights rank up magic force working for Raid Raptors as well as Raider's Wing and Raider's Knight. Because I was thinking of having his deck, Shuichi's deck, actually be like a hand-me-down from his older brother. But just let me know what you guys think I should name Shuichi's older brother, and I will like the comment. Anyways, moving on. Now I'm also thought of having Shuichi run one copy of Evil Swarm Nightmare. This card allows Shuichi to detach it. Shuichi to detach has the effect where when an opponent's monster, opponent special summons a monster except during the damage step, Shuichi can detach one material from this card, then change those special summon monsters to face down defense mode. Again, this would pretty much act as a shutdown for most boss monsters for Shuichi's deck, for Shuichi's opponent, as they cannot be flipped back face up. And after this card effect is activated. Now, moving on from that, I'm having Shuichi run 2 copies of the Phantom Knights of Breaksword. This monster would basically act as, has the effect where it can, sorry, I'm just waiting for it to get into focus, there we go. To allow Shuichi, this card has the effect where Shuichi can detach 1 Xyz material from this card and target 1 card on his opponent's field and 1 card on his field to destroy them. It also has the effect where if it's ever destroyed, it can special summon 2 Phantom Knight monsters with the same level from his graveyard and special summon them back with 1 additional level. Also, he can have special summon monsters for the rest of his turn except dark monsters. Now, this is basically one of Shuichi's main go-to Xyz monsters. So, I kind of thought that having him run this would be able to help him out. But sorry about the camera shaking though, guys. And anyways, I thought that this would be on how Shuichi can get rid of pesky monsters or cards in exchange for him getting rid of one of his materials. And basically, that would force his opponent to go into a lockdown to fix things up. Or, no, sorry, I meant to say that. To put them in a pickle. I'm really sorry, guys. I did not prepare a script for this at all. I just thought of trying to freelance because this is my first time ever doing a video like this. So, please don't get fired. Please don't roast me for this stuff. But anyways, moving on from that, and moving on to his I also thought of to wrap up Xyz monsters, I thought of having him run 1 Leviathan the Sea Dragon. Even though it's not a Phantom Knight monster, it actually does help him out with the cards, as this Leviathan allows Shuichi to detach a material from this card, special summon 1 banished level 4 or lower monster to his field. Basically, he can use this to re-summon any of his banished monsters and bring them back. And after he uses this card as material, he can reuse it as link material for any monsters. Speaking of which, moving on to the links. So for his link monsters, I thought of having Shuichi run 1 copy of Saruja Skulldread for extra draw power and summoning a monster. Access Code Talker to help him to have him get rid of any pesky monsters in exchange for banishing a link monster from his graveyard. I also thought of having him run 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix to return a card from to shuffle an opponent's card on their field back to their deck in exchange for discarding 1 card. I also thought of having him run 1 the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, basically as Shuichi's main link monster, helping him set up for different plays and stuff. And lastly, to represent his dual monster spirit, I thought of having him run 1 copy of IP Masquerena. So basically saying this monster allows Shuichi to go into Link 3 or Link 4 power plays. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it for the extra deck. So anyways, you guys, that just about wraps up my Shuichi Saihara deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you'll get notified of all my latest videos. Alright, and See you until the next deck profile. Bye!